welcome to the channel. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. So in today's video is a bit of a treat. I do have a new release from Addiesdive, but not only that, I'm going to go ahead and do a comparison as well against the very popular and the amazingly well finished Watchdives WD003, which I've already covered. So first off, I'm going to give you guys an overview of what this new Addiesdive is, specs, dimensions, etc. And then we're going to compare the different features and aspects right next to the Watchdives WD003 to further demonstrate the incredible value for money you get on the Watchdives. Even on the back of this video, some people thought I'd lost my mind, I was crazy, it can't be as good as I said it was. Trust me, this watch is as good as I said it was. Definitely can keep up with the likes of Chronos and, you know, some of the San Martin models. Maybe not the newer stuff which has come out with, but they're not far behind. As you guys know, they do work together, but this watch is that incredible. So I'm going to use the Addiesdive to demonstrate, because they're not far off on the price point, and the price point is one thing which we use to determine the value for money. So let's introduce you to the Addiesdive AD2091, one of the newer models, not the newest because obviously it's difficult to keep up with these people. Comes in 3 different colors. You've got the blue here with this sort of cracked dial texture, something that you probably find on a desert sort of floor, that cracked texture. And it's a very interesting texture. There is some depth to it. It looks okay. I didn't think I'd like it, but it looks good. Now you've also got a domed, curved edge, domed mineral glass, not sapphire crystal, with AR coating, but on their website they claim it's Swiss AR coating. I don't think so. Don't believe that for a second. You've got a Seiko NH35 automatic movement powering this watch. The watch does have a date window at the 6, which is a thumbs up from me. You've got a screw down crown, screw down case back, which gives you a water resistance of 100 meters. Again, allegedly. You also got female end links on the watch, which is a nice feature to have. And then you've got your sort of milled clasp fold over with 5 micro adjustments. And I'd say, and the price is £99, which is a really good price, respectable. You are getting a lot of specifications for that. Addiesdive are a very well-known budget brand. And in terms of dimensions, we've got a 39mm case with a 13mm thickness, 48mm lug to lug, and then 20mm lug width, and again all for just around £100. Now depending on, you know, coupons and sales, that could obviously change, but the price that you see on the website, that's what it is. Now when we move over to the Watchdives, just to recap, right, what we had a total of 6 different colors when I reviewed this. Now they've added another 3, so you get a total of 9 different colors. Some nice pastel sort of ice blue, and then sort of this pastel green that they've got on there, and I think something else, maybe a lavender, I'm not too sure. I'll put it up on screen. But not only that, you do have a sapphire crystal. It's a flat sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, screw down crown, screw down case back. You do get the Seiko VH31 hybrid quartz movement, which powers this watch, which is a bit of a fan favorite, and that also means there's no date window. And then in terms of dimensions, it's 38mm versus 11mm thick, and that's purely down to obviously that quartz movement. Then you've got a lug to lug of 46mm and a lug width of 20mm, and the price for this is £112. And on the website, it's a bit cheaper, around the £85 to £88 mark, depending on which sort of dial variant you go for. There is a slight increase on a different dial, but for this particular version, 112 on AliExpress and 88. So already you can see how close this watch is in terms of price. Now that's, again, as I said, one thing which will determine, you know, the value for money aspect, but already in hand you can see day and night differences between the watches. The one on the right, the Watchdives, straight away you can tell how much more impressive this is, some of the detailing, but I'll give you a side-by-side comparison when we talk about the Addiesdive AD2091. Now with the Addiesdive, the main thing here is, of course, the dial. Now Addiesdive have used this case across different models. They've got different dial versions. With this particular one, it is all about the dial, and it's not just a printed sort of texture, right? Some of these watches, when they first came out with this distinct pattern, it was a printed pattern and looked very flat. This one has, so it's been engraved onto the dial, so it does look much better. Now the curvature of that mineral glass, see that we're just the curved edge, it does give it some added depth around that minute track. The rest of the dial is printed, and then you've got these polished hour markers, and no doubt this is also kind of homaging the one from San Martin, their very popular Garda watch, as well as the Watchdive. So San Martin is like the leader here. Yeah, San Martin's at the top, the flag bearer, and we're just seeing how close these two watches are. Now, the price difference, obviously, San Martin, just to remind you, is around £250. It uses the Miyota 9000 series movement, so that's definitely up there. These are, let's say, less than half of that at 100. So back to the Addiesdive. Now, the dial markers, fully polished. You've got these bullet sort of style markers in and around the 12, 3, 6, and 9, and they are also beveled on the edges, fully polished, and this is not too different from the markers that we saw on the San Martin. Because there's no micro detailing, you can't really distinguish the difference, and at eye level, to the naked eye, there will be none. What I can only see here is that on the handset, again, flat like the San Martin, the Lume, I can already tell it looks a little thin, thinly applied. So when we do a Lume comparison, we'll be able to see it. But in terms of the sort of components on the dial, I don't see much difference. And again, at arm's length, it does look like a really nice watch. So I can't knock Addiesdive for that. In terms of comparison with the Watchdives, slightly darker shade. I'm not going to say which one's better. Just in terms of objective features, they still use polished hands, just like the Addiesdive. So yeah, there's no difference there. In terms of the dial, I mean, textures, you know, they're quite subjective. So again, I won't say which one is better. They're both quite good. The only thing that Watchdive does, it adds a chapter ring, which gives it obviously just a bit of, again, depth there. The markers look slightly different, but again, they are fully polished, no further micro detailing, just beveling. So in terms of the dials, I'd say they're both in the same place. I don't think one dial is more than the other. I think they're quite similar. I'd say the only thing which probably cost a bit more was just that chapter ring over that printed mini track, as it's just one assembly. Now, that's only one of the two similarities I think these watches share. So let's have a look at the Lume and see where they differ and how they compare. So as you guys can see, in terms of the Lume, there's no difference there at all. In hand, both look exactly the same. Both use BGW9. Both use these sort of thin batons, so you can't apply that much Lume. And there is the exact same amount of layers because one of them isn't brighter than the other. They both are exactly the same. Now, when we move past the Lume and onto, let's say, the case features, because that's the main thing which is different here, you'll see massive difference, right? So with this watch here, first thing is that bezel. Yeah, this case also reminds me of like a Explorer style case. You've got quite a thin bezel, which is good. I don't like the really large sort of thick bezels, but yeah, it's fully polished. And that's it to the bezel. There's nothing more. When we go over to the Watchdives, and bear in mind, guys, this is where the price difference comes in, because the more work, the more manufacturing process, you know, a piece of metal goes through, that's the more value add you get out of it, and that's where the costs come in. So on this bezel, it's got a 3 kind of stage finishing. The bezel itself is brushed. On the A face, it's also flattened. You can see that consistent brushing. You do have that beveled lip around the side, mirror polish, and at the base, you've got some circular brushing there. So already, you know, this bezel definitely is a lot better than this. We then go to the case for the Addiesdive. You've got linear brushing on the A face and across the end link that you see in the lugs. Now, the brushing here, you can see it's not satin brushed. It's quite good. I'll be fair to Addiesdive. It's very reasonable. And when we actually go across the bracelet, you'll see it is pretty consistent. But yeah, it's definitely not satin brushing. When we compare then to the Watchdives, just look at the difference in the brushing there. Much smoother. That is what you call satin brushing. Yeah, much finer. It just gives it a much different sort of level of sheen on there. Obviously, it makes it look a lot more expensive, and you can already see the difference there, even with the end links. Worlds apart in terms of the finishing, and it is important to see these things next to each other when I do these kind of comparisons, because you can definitely see the level in the quality and what finishing is. So on those lugs, you can clearly see that. Look how coarse this is, and then compared to the Watchdives, look how much smoother that is. Now also, the case is rather basic. When we turn it on its side, you will find the side is just fully polished. There's no bevels here, there's no bevels underneath. So just a standard case, and some of these cases are quite cheap. So just a basic case with the mirror polishing along the sides and nothing else really. But again, game changer. When we look at the Watchdives, there is a massive difference in the levels of finishing you're actually getting here. So not only does the Watchdives feature those large polished bevels, that crisp transition between the polishing and, you know, the brushing, Then we go over to the side, you get that soft brushing along the side as well, and that satin brushing there. And then also, a point which I mentioned in the review is you also got a beveled underside of the case, which is very rare. And I'd say never seen on a price point of this watch. You know, something as low as this £100, £112, you're not going to see double beveled cases at all. And this is the difference between the different levels of finishing and manufacturing when it comes to watch cases, right? You'll see something like this on really high-end watches where they actually go to the trouble of doing this. So again, quite a massive difference. Case backs, nothing much to talk about, just, you know, circular brushed, branded as well. Same thing on the sort of Watchdives. In fact, they have zero branding, and that does annoy some people. So here I'd say the Addiesdive has done probably a little bit better because you've got a branded case back on there. Crown on the Addiesdive, a little bit small. Yeah, I find this quite difficult to deal with. I mean, it's only like 5.2 mil, which is nothing, right? If you've got sort of thick fingertips or just normal fingertips, you're going to find you do struggle in kind of getting the crown in and out. But the Watchdives does look at functionality, gives you a bigger crown at 6.3 mil, and it's much easier to use to operate. So the next part is the bracelet. Now, do I really need to go into depths here? Because you can really tell the bracelet on this Watchdives is worlds apart. It's a 5-link bracelet, soft satin brushing, 2 polished links alongside that center brushed link. You also got polished sides. They do use split pins, but these are much thicker split pins. You can just see barely any sort of flexibility in that bracelet, any sideways play. And then you've got screws that hold that last link with the clasp, because I think that is transferable. You can also buy an on-the-fly adjustable clasp with this watch. Now, in comparison to, this is why the point that I'm trying to get at, in comparison to the Watchdives, take a look at this bracelet, right? Fully brushed, like I said, nothing too wrong with it at all. But when we compare, there really is no competition at all. Polished sides, yes, fully brushed, but just take a look at the amount of sort of sideways play you get in this bracelet, right, versus the one from Watchdives. So this still uses split pins, but you know, your normal sort of cheap split pins, thin split pins. And yeah, that bracelet is just jiggling away. And that is the point that I'm actually trying to prove. This Addiesdive is what a £100 watch should look like. I definitely expect all these features, the finishing, you know, where they haven't used screw-in links, etc. And they've given us, like, you know, the compromises they've done and some of the added features we still get a lot of value for money for £100. So you cannot knock this. But where Watchdives delivers that plus, you know, 10 times more, is really difficult to get away from, and you've got to know that how good this watch is incredible. Still now in hand, after the review I did, putting it next to what a £100 watch should look like, this is still blowing me away. It's absolutely incredible what they've done here. Now there's another point which I think they can compare quite closely, I'd say, is the clasps. So both have, let's get the clasps out, both have the exact same type of clasp. The Watchdives clasp is just slightly longer, but again, you can tell the finishing is very comparable here. Satin brushing, then you've got your polished bevels on either side, and then you've also got 5 micro adjustments. So yeah, in terms of the clasp, Addiesdive and Watchdives, yeah, definitely the same thing. As I said, one just a bit bigger, but you know, it's there. Milled internals, and same thing with the Addiesdive. Now on wrist, this is where, you know, your other difference is going to be the main difference. The Addiesdive, it depends. It's very subjective, this part. I do prefer the fit on the Watchdives being a 38 mil, but I also like this 39 mil. It fits bang on. It's quite proportionate. Maybe a touch long on the lug to lug at 48, but you know, that's absolutely fine just by a mil, so I'm not going to moan too much about that. But the female end links, really, you know, that's what makes the watch wear really well. And yeah, it's good. It's got good presence. You can see on my 6.5-inch wrist for 39mm, it's not a bad shout. So some people may prefer the 39mm because it fills your wrist out a bit more. Yeah, so that does look quite impressive. I'm not doing this to say that Addiesdive is a bad watch. I'm just trying to say how far ahead Watchdives are. And in the budget world, I'd say they are the budget kings. Now, in comparison to the Watchdives, again, a thing of taste, but I much prefer the way this fits, the way this sits, and also the finishing. It's a finishing which makes that watch definitely stand out. You know, so from a few feet away, a few meters away, you can still tell that this watch is incredibly high grade, you know, made really well. just due to where they've got those polished highlights and stuff. And you'll notice that this is where a lot of the top brands are going towards. A few years back, there wasn't that much focus on the types of finishing. Now, when I'm looking at watches coming out, they're all adding these polished bevels, to the point some of the newer Seiko models are also adding this. Then you get the polished underside, again, still quite a rare feature on watches under £1,000. So yeah, so finishing is the next big thing, and we can see in front of our eyes on AliExpress how far this has come. So the people that kind of hate on homages or AliExpress watches, they haven't got a clue. But, you know, people that shop on AliExpress for watches, you are getting better value for money with, you know, same materials, or like I said, in some of the cases, or most of the cases, something that much better. So I'd say that concludes the review, the comparison between two really good watches. This, again, Addiesdive, what a £100 watch would look like. Not too many bad things to say about this, as you know, I showed where the parts of the bracelet which are a bit rattly, the mineral glass, but in comparison to the Watchdives, that Watchdives just knocks it out of the park and is so many levels above the Addiesdive. And again, price, there is £12 difference between the two, which is incredible. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next video.